credentials and how that works. How to communicate back to the writer? Yes, or the reader? Yes, for diagnostic purposes, but it's not actually going to talk to the reader in the traditional way that you think of, i.e., wirelessly. It's going to talk through that diagnostic port on the bottom. There was a group of hackers that figured out that you could take advantage of that diagnostic port and actually use malicious. You could actually use. You could actually talk to it on that port in debug mode, and then they figured out how to basically just make the thing just fall open. So they actually got it down to where it was saved on a Arduino chip, right, with the thinner one, and shoved inside what looked like a magic marker, like a black magic marker. And on the tip was the tip that went into the hole on the bottom. So you pop the cap off and just hold it in there for like 5-10 seconds, and then you'd hear the thing retract the bolt and then open the hotel room door.
The port's on the outside of the door?
Yes. Well, how else do you?
Well, I was just thinking.
So let's say the reader shits the bed, right? And it's not a battery issue; it's a hardware issue. Now, not even the master key will open the system, right? Now you need a locksmith or a couple of hangers and my buddy's shoelace. But realistically, the idea is because of situations like that, right? That's why the port is out there. What they've done now is they've actually locked it down to where you can still connect to it, but now there's some crypto there in order for it to allow you to start communicating to the underlying circuitry. And that's basically it. The other thing it allows you to do is you can plug it in, and instead of sending it electronic signals for debug, it literally just generates a current to it. So in the case of a dead battery, they can just touch that, the maid can touch her key and unlock the door, right? So that she can get in, and then they can change the battery.
So what do those things have? Is there some kind of a motion sensor or something that knows when the card's been presented? So it's not wasting battery by constantly generating a field?
It's literally when the chip is present. Right? So remember what I said, it generates an electromagnetic field, right? The card itself doesn't generate a field, it's passive.
Right.
So the only way that you can make it work is it has to be generating that field. Then the card comes within that field, right? I think spec-wise, you're talking within 6 centimeters or so, but usually less. Comes within that electromagnetic field, in which case the coil is then powered, and then the chip can read and it can have a data exchange. So it would always have to have that there. There's absolutely no way for it to work otherwise. Yeah, I get what you're saying about motion sensors. It's not how it works. It's always.
I just didn't know if generating that field constantly how fast it would burn out the battery.
Not at that level. Not at that level. It's like having your phone in power save mode. The only time there's a spike in battery usage is when it's actually doing the reads for the card and such. Other than that, it's sitting there in a low power mode where it's generating.
It's enough to know that something's
it's a very small. I would say weak because it's very small.
Focus.
Right. Like I said, within 6 centimeters. So it goes into the low power mode, and it has just enough that when a card comes into range, enough to both power the chip and then also read the data out. Then it'll do that, and then it goes back to low power usage. It only is sitting there just generating that field. So anytime you walk down a hotel room hallway, you're just passing all of these electromagnetic fields. They're very small, of course. None of them, they're not supposed to emit past basically the door jamb. So you're not technically walking through them, you're walking by them. But yeah, all of those readers, as long as they've got a power source. And usually the batteries that those things use are your typical batteries you'd get at a hardware store. So like I think some are D-cell, some are the type that cordless phones used to use, right? So the maid will pop the battery out, pop the new one in, and take the old one back to be charged, right? What was that? RF and RF theory, right? Essentially, the radio waves, right, are waves, and if we accept that light also acts like waves, but also like particles, but waves, right, signal waves, particles, and radio waves, which may or may not also act as particles, but waves, right, is on a lower spectrum band, therefore not visible, right? So then you get into your, infrared and your gamma radiation, stuff that's not visible, right? That's naturally occurring all the time. So never mind the fact that the Wi-Fi at Starbucks will possibly give you like skull cancer.
Right, yeah.
That doesn't really matter, and it hasn't technically been proven yet. The more dangerous radiation that's generated by humans is the for everyday purposes, not like it's your cell phone. Right, let me see if we can get on here now. Is MyFair, is the protocol. So therefore, they would use
A plus
their
certified. What's up?
their crypto.
Very good. Hey, there we go. We got it there. Hey.
So question,
Hey, you said you have Cali?
Yes.
Just bring that one up. Okay, see if you can.
Yeah, VM.
Now that we know that works, we can just jump back to the presentation for the screenshots and such. Let's fire up Cali. Do you have your rock mark?
Yes.
Have you ever used it? Okay. Bring it on over. Is this Cali? It says it's running on Windows 7. Or did you just change the icon?
No, it's just kind
It has the Windows 7. Why is this running so slow? It's the sheer amount of dick pics on here, I'm telling you. My knife? Yeah. Sorry if I'm a little crude or crass, guys.
VirtualBox really crazy.
Hey,
You told us the same thing last night.
that is one of the common things that Graces and I have right now. Now VirtualBox on Windows is another story. Because VirtualBox on Windows or Mac with the with those networking.
It's the struggle that real right now, gents.
Now, see what happens is you'll go to a conference and you never know what software is going to be in use. So I actually have VMware and VirtualBox on here because you never know.
question, Brian.
Yes.
So, if somebody uses an app instead of using the actual card for their hotel,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean the microcontroller in your phone is storing the cryptographic information?
Interesting and great question. There's two ways to look at it. The way that it sort of used to be, and sort of still is, and sort of what they're transitioning to. Now, in the terms of things like payment card systems, it's going to be the older way, right? So, how it worked was, please tell me this works at least. Perfect, awesome. Do you have an eraser or something? So you actually have a couple of things, right? You have so you've got the antenna, right? Here's your card. And the antenna is going to read and bring it to the system itself. So let's say this is your cell phone. This is your antenna. This is your card, right? So it's going to read it, bring it down. The cell phone has a bunch of different hardware inside of it. So specifically what it's going to do is it's going to look at, it could be called a couple different things. You might see it called TBM. What else do they call that? I've only ever seen a TBM. But anyway, so what this is actually doing is there is actually protected storage within the cell phone, and it's its own chip. I'm writing really low. Can you even see that? Okay, can everyone see that? It's a terrible drawing, but bear with me. We don't have a whole lot of other stuff going for us, so it's this protected storage uses what's called Java card.
Oh yeah, the old Java card.
Right. That's how that would work.
That
So
technology is so old.
it's actually still in use. Now they're shifting away from it, and they've come up with better crypto standards that TPM uses to. But this is technically the.
I don't know if you
Rob, did you need internet on this? Did you need internet on this Cali box?
Shouldn't.
Yeah, where did you?
So the protected storage for this example is using what's called Java Card. As a matter of fact, if you go to java.com right now and go to offline downloads or whatever, just dig into where your JDK